Have you noticed how terrified we are of silence? The moment there's no sound, no screen, no distraction, we panic. We reach for our phones like it's oxygen, as if 2 minutes of nothingness will suffocate us. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." What if boredom isn't the enemy we think it is, but the cure we've been running from? Stick with me, because today we're going to uncover why boredom might be the very thing your soul needs. Before we dive in, take a second to like this video and subscribe so we can keep building this journey together. Number 1, our fear of emptiness. We live in an age where emptiness feels unbearable. The second a conversation ends, we open Instagram. When the Wi-Fi drops, we act like it's the end of civilization. But this fear of being alone with ourselves is exactly why we feel so restless and anxious. We're scared of facing our own thoughts. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in silence without touching your phone, TV, or music? If I told you to stare at a wall for 10 minutes, you'd probably laugh or cry. But that's the problem. We can't sit with ourselves anymore. And if you can't sit with yourself, how will you ever know yourself? Boredom exposes the gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. It peels away the noise, leaving us with what's real. Most people can't handle that mirror, so they escape. But Stoicism teaches that the mind grows only when it stops running. Here's the funny thing. We act like boredom will kill us. But nobody has ever died of boredom. People have only died of what they did to escape it. Too much drinking, too much scrolling, too much distraction. Boredom itself isn't the danger. Avoiding it is. Number 2, boredom as a training ground. If life is a battle, boredom is the training ground. Epictetus taught that difficulties prepare the soul, and boredom, in its own quiet way, is a difficulty. It tests our ability to endure stillness, to discipline the mind, and to remain steady when nothing exciting is happening. When you sit with boredom, you're practicing patience. You're teaching yourself not to be ruled by the constant hunger for stimulation. The mind becomes sharper because it is no longer tossed around by every new thing that demands attention. It learns focus, endurance, and strength. Look at athletes. They don't get strong only by playing the big game. They get strong by training in silence, repeating the same moves over and over until it becomes second nature. Boredom is life's version of that silent training. Without it, we remain weak, distracted, and fragile. Here's the humor in it. We want wisdom, peace, and focus, but only if they come with fireworks. Sorry to break it to you, but the fireworks come after you endure the boredom. The Stoics knew this. They sat in silence, reflected daily, and embraced the plain moments. That's where their strength was forged. Number 3, boredom leads to creativity. People complain that they're not creative anymore, that they don't have original thoughts. But do you know what fuels creativity? Space. Empty space. And what's another word for empty space? Boredom. Think of a child in a room with no toys. At first they cry, but give them time, and suddenly the chair becomes a spaceship, the pillow becomes a dragon, and their imagination explodes. Adults aren't much different. We just forgot how to wait long enough for creativity to spark. When you're bored, your mind starts to wander. And in that wandering, it connects ideas you never noticed before. That's when the best thoughts come. How many of your ideas show up in the shower, while driving, or lying in bed staring at the ceiling? Exactly. That's boredom at work. So next time you feel bored, don't run. Smile. It means your brain is stretching its legs. Who knows? The solution you've been searching for might only arrive when you finally allow yourself to sit and do nothing. Sometimes, nothing is the doorway to everything. Number 4, the power of self-mastery. Learning to be bored is really learning to master yourself. If you can control yourself in silence, then noise, chaos, and distraction won't control you. That is Stoic freedom. Not being dragged around by the world, but standing firm no matter what. Think about it. If boredom drives you crazy, it means you're a slave to stimulation. Your happiness depends on whether or not life is entertaining at the moment. That's fragile living. But if you can sit calmly in boredom, you become unshakable. You own your time instead of letting time own you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Boredom is the perfect test of this truth. Can you sit still without needing life to dance for you? If you can, you've already won. And let's be real, if you can survive boredom, you can survive almost anything. Waiting in line, sitting in traffic, a lecture that feels like it's going on forever. All of these moments become training sessions for patience. Boredom is just life's sneaky way of asking, are you strong enough to wait? Number 5, turning boredom into power. Boredom isn't something to escape, it's something to use. The Stoics didn't avoid it. They embraced it as a chance to reflect, to grow, and to prepare the soul for harder trials. Imagine flipping the script. Instead of saying, I'm bored, say I'm training. Suddenly, every dull moment becomes an opportunity. Waiting in a lobby? That's practice. Stuck on hold? Practice. Sitting in silence? Practice. These small victories add up until you realize that boredom was never a curse. It was a tool. And here's the secret. People who learn to endure boredom end up living richer lives. Why? Because they're not slaves to constant noise. They can enjoy the simple things, a quiet walk, a conversation, a sunset. Life becomes enough, even without constant excitement. That's real freedom. So the next time boredom visits you, don't run. Invite it in. Treat it like an old teacher you didn't know you needed. Because in that silence, in that stillness, you're not wasting time. You're learning how to live. And that is something worth practicing every single day. Number 6, boredom reveals what truly matters. When you're constantly entertained, everything feels important. But when you sit with boredom, you realize how much of your life is filled with noise that doesn't matter. Silence acts like a filter, separating the essential from the unnecessary. Take a moment and notice how many things you chase out of boredom. You scroll not because you care, but because you can't stand stillness. You text people you don't value, just to fill the gap. Boredom reveals this truth in a way nothing else can. It exposes how much of our life is wasted on the trivial. Seneca said, life is long if you know how to use it. The trouble is, most of us don't know. We use life to escape ourselves instead of facing what matters. But boredom pushes you back toward your priorities. It makes you ask, if the silence feels unbearable, what am I really afraid of hearing in my own mind? It's almost funny. We act like boredom is this evil force, but really, it's a brutally honest friend. It tells us when we're wasting life. And if we can listen to it without fear, we'll start cutting away the distractions and focusing only on what's truly worth living for. Number 7, boredom strengthens relationships. One of the hidden gifts of boredom is that it teaches us how to connect deeply with people. Think about it. If you can't stand silence with someone, do you really know them? Do you really value them? Most relationships today are built on constant stimulation. We need dates, events, music, endless talking. But true companionship is when you can sit in silence together and still feel whole. That kind of bond is only possible when you've trained yourself not to panic at boredom. The Stoics valued simplicity. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that nature itself is plain, quiet, and calm, yet deeply beautiful. In relationships, the same applies. The quiet moments reveal whether love is built on depth or just entertainment. Here's a humorous truth. If you can't sit quietly on a couch with someone without reaching for your phone, you probably don't like them as much as you think. Boredom is the test. If you pass it, you found something real. If you fail, you've only found a distraction in human form. Number 8, boredom builds gratitude. We're often ungrateful because we're overstimulated. Nothing impresses us anymore. We scroll past beauty, skip past wisdom, and get bored even in the middle of abundance. But here's the twist. Boredom, when embraced, resets the soul and teaches us gratitude. When you endure boredom, suddenly the small things become radiant. That glass of water tastes better. That breeze feels sweeter. That conversation becomes more meaningful. Silence sharpens appreciation, while constant noise dulls it. The Stoics practiced deprivation for this very reason. They would sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, or eat simple meals. Why? So they could learn to appreciate comfort when it returned. Boredom works the same way. It strips away the excess so we can see the value in the little things. And here's where it gets funny. People think they need to travel the world, buy expensive things, or live a dramatic life to feel joy. But often, the happiest people are the ones who learn how to sit with boredom and notice the miracle in a quiet, ordinary day. Number 9. Boredom is a mirror of the soul. Boredom is often not about the situation, but about you. If you're bored in silence, it means you've lost touch with your inner world. Your imagination, your reflections, your ideas, they're asleep because you've been drowning them in noise. When you let boredom sit with you, it becomes a mirror. It reflects back the state of your mind. If silence feels unbearable, it's a signal you need to reconnect with yourself. You need to awaken the inner voice you've been ignoring. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the soul has all it needs within itself. But if we never give the soul space to breathe, it withers. Boredom gives us that space. It forces us to face what's inside, even if at first it feels uncomfortable. Here's the irony. People run from boredom to find themselves. They travel, they chase experiences, they buy new things. But the self they're looking for is sitting quietly inside, waiting to be noticed. And boredom is the only doorway to enter that room. Number 10, boredom as a path to peace. At the heart of it all, boredom leads to peace. Once you've trained yourself not to fear stillness, you unlock a kind of calm that constant stimulation can never give you. The noise of the world loses its grip. You become centered, steady, unshaken. Most people think peace is found in vacations, luxury, or escape. But peace isn't out there, it's inside. And boredom, when faced with courage, clears the path to it. You realize you don't need much to be content. A breath, a moment, a quiet thought. The Stoics aim for tranquility, a state of mind where nothing external can disturb you. Boredom, ironically, is the best practice for this. If you can learn to enjoy silence, you've already won half the battle of life. And here's the humorous kicker. Once you make peace with boredom, life stops feeling boring. Suddenly, every ordinary moment is enough. You don't need fireworks to feel alive. You only need the strength to sit quietly, breathe, and realize that right now, you already have everything you need.